Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm going to let all the participants sort of come into the room here, and we'll get started here shortly. Okay. We've still got some more people coming in, but we can go ahead and get started because I know everybody's eager to get to this content. Today, just a reminder where you are. You are in a webinar brought to you by Quartile with our CEO, Daniel Kitchnick. And we're going to talk today about some trends that everybody, I'm sure you as sellers are seeing. We're definitely seeing across all of our clients. But it's becoming increasingly hard to make money on Amazon for something that, for those of you who have been on Amazon for a while now, have, seen the heydays and, the extreme profitability that you've seen. It's harder and harder these days to achieve that. And we're going to go through some of the reasons why and what you can do about it today. So everybody, welcome. And Daniel, I'll turn it over to you.
Cool, Nick. Thank you so much. Hey, guys. Great being with you guys again in this session. Happy Friday, right? I think it's important to always remember it's Friday. Weekend is almost here. So I think that today we're going to start to talk about a very interesting topic, right? Very hard, delicate topic, but still interesting and has different dimensions to it, which is the fact that yes, it's getting harder and harder to make money on Amazon, right? As a seller, as a brand on Amazon, it is becoming more competitive. I think that boom of explosion of e-commerce demand is over. We're getting more closer to like things as they used to be in terms of growth pace and so forth. And then lots of different things are adjusting the market, and we are seeing movements and a dynamic that is playing out in a way that I think is worth discussing here. So to jump exactly to the agenda, we are going to quickly talk about Quartile, who we are, what we do. We're going to talk about the seller costs on the rise, the new Amazon economics, cost of goods, shipping, taxes, oh God. Then we go for what to expect for remaining of the year, and then some recommendations, and then we open for Q&A. So I think it's going to be a dense session. Quartile is a digital advertising platform. We have a layer of services. We have a self-service component as well. 110 employees. We're getting to 120 employees now. We're going to manage around $10 billion in sales this year for e-commerce. 3,500 accounts connected globally. Just for you guys to have an idea, we have customers in 26 different countries. Our advertising campaigns are served in, I think, 15 or 16 different countries. Lots of DSP professionals certified as well, patented algorithms and offices globally, all running through our machine learning platform and managed both by our clients and our account managers that are pretty well trained to full service onboard and manage clients. In terms of data, right? Because when it comes to these days of high competition for advertising in general, size, speed, and variety matter, right? So we're going to manage almost $1.1 billion in e-commerce advertising spend this year. So you guys can imagine the almost infinite pool of data that we have and leverage to be able to be more efficient to each of our clients. We are going to manage 350 million orders this year on Amazon alone. So it's a crazy number. That's almost like 1 million orders a day on average. We do around 75,000 optimizations per hour on our clients' campaigns. Managing 12 million unique ASINs. And from the top 100 sellers on Amazon, we manage around 20%, 20 of those top 100 sellers. So we're very, very big in brands. We have lots of brands from traditional CPG companies like Burt's Bees from Clorox, Burt's Bees Baby from Clorox, like a couple of some brands from Unilever as well. And then we manage some gigantic sellers as well as smaller sellers. So it's a very interesting sample of the ecosystem that runs through Quartile's pipes, right? Again, some examples of clients, some very traditional brands, some very, very known brands on the Amazon space. Aggregators, so Thrasio, for example, is one of our biggest clients and big partner, and we manage hundreds of accounts for them in all the countries. So very interesting portfolio of brands and partners, right? That we like to work with and help and learn as well. I think that the big question for this session is always going to be, why is it getting more expensive, right? What is happening? And what can you do about it, right? So lots of different things are happening, and we're going to go over each of them. But basically, you have a component of shipping, and by shipping meaning freight costs, bringing goods from abroad increased exponentially its cost. So if you're bringing a container from China to LA, for example, it used to cost $3,200, and now it costs over $20,000. So that's like a 7x spike on the cost. You have increased import taxes as well. Advertising is getting more expensive, so that is increasing your tacos, the total spend you have to, the percentage of total sales you're having to spend on Amazon just to maintain your sales, right? And now we had earlier this week, I think Tuesday, the Department of Commerce released their numbers for July, and for the first time we saw a decrease in sales for e-commerce. So e-commerce in general decreased more than 3%, right? In a world in which in these last almost 2 years it has been growing very consistently. It exploded during the first beginning peak of COVID, March, April, May, June, and it kept steadily increasing. We all knew that this day would come in which things would flatten up a little bit more, the world would open a little bit more, and then people would be eager to go outside and they end up spending more money in services. They end up buying more in physical retail stores, and both those things end up making them buy less online. So all these things are happening, right? I think that in general, we're seeing a big shift. Also, Amazon just released their results for Q2, right? And as we all know, Amazon is a public company. They released their results. And one thing that we saw, and I think I read an article from Marketplace Post, Joe from Marketplace Post wrote that for the first time, retail sales were less than 50% of Amazon's total sales, right? So for the first time, all the other revenues that Amazon has, AWS, right, their cloud systems, and advertising, and FBA fees, and all the other fees that they charge from sellers to provide the services that they do, and all the other revenue sources that they have were higher than retail, right? So this is a breakthrough. This is the first time that they're making more money, more revenue, right? Like obviously much more profits, but even like more revenue in everything else than in retail. That was very interesting to see. There's an obvious shift, right? I think that more and more Amazon will become, and this is obviously my opinion, but I think that what's happening is that Amazon is going to become more and more a platform in which literally millions of sellers, or a platform that millions of sellers use and leverage to have their e-commerce sales, their marketplace sales, and they will become stronger and stronger on AWS, and the advertising arm is growing very, very fast, like literally 87% this last quarter compared to Q2 last year. And this move is happening, right? They're also adding more inventory. So sponsored displays are something that they're investing heavily on. DSP has always been for this last, I would say, a year and a half. DSP has been key, but now it's really like ramping up. So Amazon is growing faster and faster on the advertising side of things. And their revenue is here to show that. So again, think about the fact that 87% growth in advertising revenue compared to 20% growth in sales revenue, right? So Q2, Amazon's total sales grew 20%, while ad revenue grew 87%. So that basically means that clicks got around 50% more expensive, right? Because sales grew 20%, which means that you had 20% more clicks, more searches every day, more clicks. But those clicks costed 87% more, which obviously means that average cost per click increased by almost 50%, 47, 48% is what we saw. And yes, this makes it more competitive. This eats up your margin. It is a fact that we cannot fight against. And by the way, they're still much more efficient than the other channels we see usually for e-commerce. So yes, it is going to get more competitive. Lots of different things happen, right? One thing that is that, like we're saying here, the advertising cost of sales increased. The average A cost in 2020 was 22%. This year it's around 30%, right? So this is a number. This is real. And of course, this is average. So we're talking about, you always have some categories that are much more competitive, and they're going to have higher A costs. You have categories that are less competitive. You have brands that are very known. So in general, they have lower A costs because Amazon wants to prioritize their products because their products sell better. And also because they have lots of branded term searches, right? Which have obviously higher conversion rate. While other brands might be on the other side of this. And that's what generated this increase in average cost per click from 79 cents in June 2020 to $1.20 in June 2021. So it's literally 50%. While conversion rates are the same, so you still need around 8 clicks to make a sale, give or take, which puts you on around, now you're getting to $9 to $10 cost for sale. So each unit you sell on the ads costs you around $9 to $10 on average. It used to be around $6 to $7. So this $3 to $4 additional spend that you have to do for each sale you generate on the ads is obviously draining margins, right? And it's not going to get any easier because bigger brands, and I think that's key to understand, right? Bigger brands are coming all in, right? So till some time ago, whenever you talked to those bigger CPG brands, they would still they would sell on Amazon. Some of them wouldn't yet. And they would all kind of for an awkward reason, they would consider Amazon as a competitor. So they would always be afraid of Amazon, right? And I think that now they finally figured out that Amazon is just a channel, a sales channel, right? So they migrated from, I don't know if I want to be on Amazon, to I want to be on Amazon and I want to dominate search. And then you're talking about big pockets there, big budgets, and they don't care that much if cost per clicks are going to be $1.20 or $2.50. And then we start seeing some sellers coming to us and saying, guys, look at this. I'm bidding at $10 and I'm still not on the top of the page. How much are my competitors bidding? And yes, when you start having those bigger brands coming in, on Google, for example, it's very usual to have $50 cost per clicks, right? So I understand that on Amazon, it was still $2, $3, $4 started to be a big average cost per click. If you go to Google, depending on the keyword, it's $50, $80, $120 we see sometimes. So, of course, not the Google search campaigns that we will send back to Amazon, but when you go to traditionally very expensive search terms like CRM, like life insurance, things that don't have anything to do with e-commerce, but just to give some context to everybody here that is not from, that is just has experience with e-commerce. If you go to search terms like financial advisor, life insurance, some things that are premium on Google, you get to $100 average cost per click sometimes. So yes, it's going to become more competitive. And as these bigger brands come in, as the aggregators that raised $8 billion in this last year and a half, These guys are pouring also money on advertising because they're buying brands, they have to grow. So all those things are ending up inflating, creating more competition. And by having more competition, not just your cost per click increases and your ACoS increases, but also you start having higher tacos, right? Because we used to see, like I remember like 3 years ago, the average seller on Amazon used to have 25% of their sales coming from advertising and 75% of their sales coming from ads. A year and a half ago, I would say, it shifted to a third and 2/3, right? So a third of sales would come from ads, 2/3 of sales would come organically. As more money flew in, as more budgets came in, as it became even more competitive, what happens now is it's around 45% of sales coming from ads, 55% of sales coming organically. And it's going to be 50-50, and then eventually it's going to be even further, right? So I think that it is important to be as efficient as you can on your campaigns because these costs are not going to go down, right? Don't expect cost per clicks decreasing consistently, right? Sure, from 120 to 105 during peak summer, sure, might happen. Don't think that by Q4 next year, don't think that it's going to be 120. It's obviously going to be much more than that. So it is a move of things getting more competitive. You're having more efficiency in the more professional players, which allows them to pay more per click, which we'll get to as well. So yes, we're seeing this big shift, this big change. There's also another thing that we are seeing here, which is the cost of goods and the taxes, right? So what happens is that you have more import taxes, right? And this is something that we cannot change, right? I think the government can change it. It depends on so many different things that I'm not going to even try to get into the discussion here of why you have more import taxes. But yes, you do, right? That's reality. And when you have more import taxes, you pay more. And because sales are starting to decelerate in e-commerce and they're starting to get more closer to the 15 a year growth pace, which has been historically the trend for the last 10 years. As you get closer to that, it reduces your, as a seller, as a brand owner, as a brand operator, it reduces your capability of increasing prices, right? If you're growing 100% a year, yes, there's so many disruptions in supply chain that everybody's sold out, and then you can increase your prices and people will buy it anyways. As it decelerates, everybody gets restocked, everybody has the inventory. It's easier to predict demand for the next 6 months, let's say a year. You start having less leverage to be able to increase your prices. So if you're maintaining your prices and you're spending more in ads and you're spending more in cost of goods and you're spending more in taxes, import taxes, it is going to compress your margins, right? One of the biggest reasons, as we discussed already, is the containers cost, right? So just for you guys to have an idea, like our average client's product sells for $25, right? And the average cost of goods we see out there is around, give or take, $5, $6, $7. So the average markup on Amazon is around 4 times, right? So cost of goods cost around 1/4, 25%. It can be 35%, it can be 15%, but on average, it's usually, especially for $20, $30, $40 products, it's usually going to be something like 25% of sale price. And usually a 40-foot container usually will kind of handle something like 5,000, 6,000 units of a given product. So what we're seeing now is that container that, let's say, stores 6,000 units and used to cost around $3,000, which means 50 cents per unit for a product that costs $6 on average. So 10, 12%, 8% sometimes of total cost of goods. Now that same container that still handles the same or fits the same 5,000, 6,000 units is costing $20,000. And when it costs $20,000, what happens is that your cost, just the freight, which has never been a major cost line for any seller I have ever discussed that with, Now that number is something like $4 or $5, right? And if you're paying $4 just for freight on a product that used to cost $5 already here in the US, right? That's almost double, right? And again, everything is happening at once. So you see sales demand slowing down, so you cannot increase your prices. And your cost of goods, including import taxes and including your cost of goods, because due to the freight especially, almost double. And that obviously that hurts margins, that makes it tighter, that makes you have to be smarter to be able to manage those costs. Otherwise, it is really, really hard to make money. I think that supply chains have been interrupted as well. So Chinese floodings have happened recently in Germany. We saw the same. Union Pacific suspended their international container shipments to Chicago for a week. COVID is not making anything easier. I think that all those things combined are making it even harder, even to that's probably why, or one of the biggest reasons why containers are getting more expensive. And then, like we discussed, you have the additional tariffs, the additional import taxes that due to the war in terms of import taxes and balances, you end up having a higher cost, right? What to expect for the rest of the year, right? So one thing that we have been ventilating here, like not sure if it will happen, but we have been hearing from different sources is maybe Amazon or another player trying to boost with a different event, maybe something different. But in general, right? And I think that when it gets to that type of scenario in which we get to be really, really pressured in terms of margin, I think that it is important to understand that there is a silver lining in terms of, yes, we are on the bottom. Of course, if you sell products like back to school or even like gardening stuff, outdoor stuff, yes, you're not on the valley, you are more on the peak. But on average, we're crossing that period of the year, July, August, early September, in which things are very slow. People go out in the summer and demand shrinks. And we're going to get closer to Q4, right? And as we get closer to Q4, things start heating up again. So I think that because of everything that happened and because of how under pressure sellers are now, due to all these situations we're discussing here, I think that it is sometimes you end up becoming too short-sighted, too blinded, and you think that the demand is going to stay as is forever. It won't, right? In the same way that it slows down during July, during August, it starts heating up in September. And I'm sure that we're going to have by far the strongest Q4 we have ever had. And I think that the first thing that I would say here is don't lose sight of that, right? Be sure to have the inventory. Yes, it's going to sell more. Yes, it's going to accelerate. So don't like treat everything, and we have seen, and I'm just saying that because I have heard from so many sellers that volumes will never be the same. Yes, they will, right? Don't worry on that. People are out on the beach now. They're out traveling. They're doing other stuff. They're on vacation, but they will be back. And once they're back, demand comes back. And when we get to the season, last year we didn't have really a season, right? Because everything was so like everybody was locked at home, so things were more monolithic all year long. We didn't have summer in the sense of like people didn't travel, even for Christmas and other seasonalities. Like no one was like traveling, no one was visiting anyone, so people bought less stuff, although they bought a lot online. I think that for this year, we're going to start seeing the traditional peak that we have always seen from Black Friday on. And I think that it's going to be hot. October is going to be a strong month. November is definitely going to be a strong month. None of us want that, but we see the Delta variation here spiking again. That might create an additional influx of demand for e-commerce. So I think that it is important to understand that things will get back to normal in the sense of heating up again. It's a quick slowdown that will give us another spike soon for seasonal spike. So be sure to have the inventory, be sure to be advertising to maintain your products well ranked, because we'll get to the other side of it. And once we do it, it's going to be whoever stayed always on, whoever focused on Q4 will win, right? In terms of Quartile solutions here, I think what can you do, right? I think that one thing is keeping your eye on the margin. Another thing is keeping your heads always on, right? And we'll get to those details, right? But in general, I feel that what we want to do is to make sure that think about business as usual in the sense of demand will be back, seasonality will be back. Don't get sold out on the best-selling item. Maybe you want to be a little bit more defensive in terms of you don't need to launch that many new products right now, but make sure that you have the money for your best-selling items, right? One thing that we have seen is that always, right, is that when sellers are compressed due to margins, they don't buy inventory for their best-selling items, being it seasonal items, being it always on items. And that is the worst thing you can do, right? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 ASINs that really drive 80% of your sales and of your profits. And you want to save money to have, and by you can do that by really saving the cash flow. You can do that by getting a credit line. You can do that in different ways. What you want to avoid at all costs is to get sold out on your best-selling items, right? You don't want to do that because you don't want those products to lose ground to competitors, and they are your cash cows, right? They are the ones that really drive sales, so you have to isolate them and make sure that they perform well. In terms of what is coming here, what is new, one thing is our margin optimization, right? So we're starting to align with some clients that are going to be the first beta clients. And as you guys know, Quartile has a way of targeting a specific ACoS. Quartile has a way of targeting a specific budget. So if you have a budget in mind, Quartile will spend to that budget and make sure that it gets as efficient as it can. If you have an ACoS in mind, Quartile will get to the ACoS you want. What we're launching soon, and we're getting the first betas now, is a capability of targeting a margin. So you're going to be able to buy ASIN. You're going to be able to choose what is the margin you're looking for. Understand that sometimes that margin is going to be negative if it's a new product and you know that you have to spend some money to make it move. When it's a more consolidated product, that is your biggest margin generator, driver of margin. So you want to preserve that margin. So I think that, like, in a very simplistic way, we see clients talking about breaking even on the ads, right? And when you break even on the ads, sometimes it might make sense, but sometimes, usually, the reason why I don't like the concept of let's try to break even on the ads is that for the good products, you have such a huge organic sales that you could be even losing money on the ads, and they would still be extremely profitable because 80% of their sales come from organic, right? So no worries if you're breaking even or even losing some money on the ads. While on the worst movers, the ones that don't sell almost, you have zero organic sales on them usually. So breaking even on the ads mean usually that you're breaking even in general because you're not having organic sales. So if you're breaking even on the only sales you have, which are the ads for those products, you're obviously not making money. And if you try to break even, reality is usually you're losing money, right? Why is it so hard to analyze margin? For a couple of reasons. The first one is that usually when you think about margin, you just think about the costs that you already have by sale, right? So for example, if you're doing FBA fees are almost like a success fee. You just incur in those costs when you make a sale. Cost of goods is kind of the same, right? You just really account for the cost of good on that unit once you sell it, right? Referral fee is the same. Amazon just charges you a referral fee once you make a sale. If you didn't make a sale, they're not going to charge you a referral fee. So that is one dimension of cost, the ones that are directly correlated to your sales. Those are easier to manage, right? Because if you have a spreadsheet, you can make the calculations, you can see which are the costs you have every time you make a sale. Then you have a different type of cost, which is almost the opposite. It's the cost of not selling. So, for example, cost of capital is one of them. If you have a lot of units in a product that actually doesn't sell, you're paying interest on that money. That's a cost of capital because you're not selling. Another one on that bucket would be storage fees, right? So you just pay high storage fees on a product that doesn't sell. So accelerating or decelerating sales have one impact on costs that are directly correlated to your sales, like FBA fees, referral fees, and cost of goods. Then you have a different type of cost that is almost the opposite because it's due to no sales, like cost of capital and special like storage fees. And then you have a different dynamic, a third dimension of costs, like advertising, that you can have sales without having advertising costs. You could have advertising costs and not have any sales. But in general, they're not necessarily or directly correlated, right? And when you have those three dimensions, some costs are exactly linear to your sales, costs that are inverse to your sales. The less you sell, the higher they are. And then costs that are not correlated to sales, like advertising, that somehow the more you spend, the more you sell, but it's not obviously correlated. It is extremely important to understand that that's why we feel that so many sellers fail to make money on Amazon, because they cannot manage all that complexity, right? They're pretty good in deciding which products to sell. They're pretty good in sourcing new products. They're pretty good on building product pages. They're pretty good in opening cases, sending inventory to Amazon, but they're not accountants. And sometimes they have a lot of ASINs. It's a completely different approach. This is not something you're going to be able to manage through an Excel spreadsheet to really decide, given your inventory availability, given your costs for each sale you have, given the costs you have for not selling, given the additional costs of advertising, understanding where you are on the diminishing return point. Should you be pushing more this ASIN because there's a lot of room to grow on the ad sales without increasing any cost too much, and that will give you an extra push on organic sales. These other ones are not there anymore. Being able to tie and balance all that up and having a system in place to manage your campaigns tied to your end result, that is not doable with an Excel spreadsheet. That is not doable anyhow, other than having a system trained for that. This is what we have been building for this last year almost. We have a big team working on this for a long time. It's a fascinating challenge because, like I said, there's so many different components out of that equation to really be able to optimize and get to what you want, which is highest profit in dollars. You don't want the highest profit margin in a percentage standpoint. You don't want to just go for top line and increase sales. What you want is to make more money, right? And the more money you make, the healthier your company is, the more you can launch new products, the more you can invest in growing the company, the more you can launch new everything, hire more talents. You can do everything, right? So this is what we're doing. We're building a way for you guys to be able to manage your campaigns according to the margin as a final result, not margin on the PPC campaigns, right? I think that one thing that we have seen clients doing all the time is that sometimes they focus on one keyword, they focus on like this type of stuff instead of looking at the big picture, right? And the big picture is, with all these products that I have, what should I do? Which ones should I be pushing more? Which ones should I be pushing less? Is my cost of goods changing? If yes, let's update this number quickly. Do I have higher return and refund rates in some products? So how can I consider that cost? Putting all that into account when you decide how much capital to allocate in each product. And then once that decision is made, being able to be as efficient as you can with that capital allocation, generating more sales. That is what we're building, and then we're extremely excited with the results we're seeing. And like I said, adding more clients to the beta now and keep pushing. Another thing that we just launched, and I think that this is we haven't seen this in any other platform, and I think this is key to this discussion, and we use this when you calculate the margins is what is the share of voice you already have on that keyword, right? Because sometimes you feel that like this is a very relevant keyword, I should be spending more, and you already have 100% of top of search. You already have all the share of voice. You shouldn't be overbidding on this keyword. Sometimes you have a keyword that you feel that you are already overbidding and you are like almost on a diminishing return point. And then when you look at numbers, you see that you just have 18, 19, 20% share of voice, which means that you could be extremely more aggressive and it would make sense anyways. So being able to track that and understand which keywords you really are closer to a diminishing return point and which ones you are not, I think that makes a big difference. That is something that is also very interesting to see, right? And then as a last thing, and then we can talk some minutes about this, is the brand referral bonus, right? So this new program that Amazon made, in which they are paying you guys a 10% referral fee for every sale you bring from outside Amazon's traffic, right? So basically, like the most obvious way of seeing this is Google search, in my opinion. You can also do Facebook, you can do other channels, but as long as you come in and we use our API connection to Amazon's attribution platform, and we create Google search campaigns or Facebook campaigns or Instagram campaigns that can get to, we tag the traffic, so Amazon recognizes that you're driving this traffic from Facebook or from Google. Every time you make a sale, they're going to pay you 10% of those sales. Okay, so if we create Google search campaigns for you, and those sales generate $1,000 a day, for example, that ad spend from Google generates $1,000 a day. Amazon is going to pay you. They're going to pay you 10% of that, which is $100 a day. If you're driving $30,000 a day in sales from Google, they're going to pay you $3,000 a day. Again, of course, right? Like you're not going to drive all your sales from outside, but it's a very easy and obvious way of expanding a little bit your reach. So we see so many sellers doubling down when it comes to their Amazon advertising spend directly, and then you get to a point in which you're already overbidding, like we just saw on the share of voice there. Sometimes you're already at 89, 90, 95, 98% share of voice, and you want to sell more. Sometimes you're almost becoming a bestseller. You need those additional sales, but you cannot extract more volume from Amazon advertising, for example. And then people are searching on Google for that same keyword, and you're doing nothing, right? And this is something that amazes me, why people are so focused just on staying on Amazon. But for example, and by the way, we see like around 15% of sales generated from Google to Amazon contain the word Amazon in their query, right? So sometimes, let's say I'm selling a blue dog bed, right? So if someone searches for blue dog bed on Amazon, I want to make sure that I appear first. I leave it there. I go in. I let Amazon show me. I'm paying a lot of money per click. I'm making sure that I'm making those sales. Fine. Sometimes I'm overpaying because I want to grow. I want to sell more, but I'm already at a diminishing return point. It doesn't make sense to spend more. And then you have that same blue dog bed search on Google, and no one is competing, right? Sometimes you don't see any of those sponsored link ads. And you guys can make a test. Go open your browser now, go to Google and search for the most relevant keyword for you guys on Amazon. Search for that keyword on Google, and you're going to see, like, if you search that same keyword on Amazon, you see 10 different comments: sponsored brands, sponsored displays, obviously top of search, sponsored brand video. Everybody's competing for that keyword. Then you go to Google, nothing. And don't forget that 45% of all product search traffic in the US start on Amazon, but 35% start on Google, right? And then you see, like I said, people killing themselves to compete on Amazon, and no one really going aggressive on Google. So try it by yourself. Go into Google, type on the query the keyword that you love on Amazon, and see if there isn't less competition. It's usually like 1/5 of the competition. And you're paying like 50, 60 cents per click a lot of times. While on Amazon for that same keyword, they're paying $2, $3. So just for that reason, you should already be doing it, right? But there's another concept of that, which is the fact that when you create a campaign on Amazon and you send the traffic, obviously, to Amazon itself, they pay you nothing. When you do that same thing from Google, Amazon pays you 10% of sales, right? So not just you're going to drive more sales, not just you can use that as a lever to control becoming a bestseller on a product that you really want to be a bestseller. Not just you use that to leverage maintaining the bestseller badge on a product that you see that competitors are coming closer. You can generate 10, 15% more traffic from Google, and those additional 10% of sales on the ads will also drive another 10% of sales organically. So suddenly you're selling 20% more in total for that product, which is a lot. It's huge. But also they're going to be paying you 10% of those sales. So whatever you generate in terms of additional sales, sending traffic from Google, sending traffic from Amazon, Amazon pays you 10% of that. And we leverage all the learnings we have from Amazon campaigns, right? So when we connect your account to our system using Amazon's API, we get all the data you have on your account. We learn with statistical relevancy which are the right keywords. And then we're going to leverage those keywords on Google. So the Quartile is going to go in and create those campaigns automatically for you on Google. Our team will help. And we're going to be, the same algorithms we use to manage the Amazon campaigns are going to be used to manage your Google campaigns, and making sure that we tag it properly so that Amazon, yes, will pay you the 10%. Right? So I feel that is, that's a killer, right? That's a low-hanging fruit. Like, we definitely should do that. And don't hesitate to reach us at sales@quartile.com, and then we'll be scheduling a demo with you guys and show you how our Amazon platform works. For the ones that are not used to work with us yet, we're going to be showing you how this Amazon attribution and brand referral program works, so that we can also drive traffic from outside. That, again, by itself is an obvious idea to do, but that also, because they also pay you 10% of those sales, it becomes an even better idea. I'm seeing some questions here, Nick. So not sure if we want to address those.
I've been trying to answer as many as I could as we go, but I've got some more broader questions.
It's not tsunami of questions.
There's some broader questions that I think that you would have a great perspective on, Daniel. I think there's one kind of key question is if you're currently a smaller sale whose margins are already pretty tight, how would you recommend sort of moving forward with your kind of overall strategy for your account?
Yeah. So it's the classic chicken and the egg, right? So your sales are tight, and if you don't invest, you're going to just lose more sales, right? It is becoming more competitive, and I understand it. Those are the type of thing that it's easier said than done. But in general, like, you have to understand what the bigger players do. What do? They invest their money in advertising. They focus on the right products, right? So if you go to, and this is curious, right? But sometimes we go we work with so many of those gigantic CPG brands, and sometimes they have 2,000-3,000 ASINs, and they're focused on the top 50, right? That's what they want to do. They want to make sure that those are category definitive products. They define the category, they're relevant, and they're going to be banging on those, right? And then everything else might have some spend, but it's minimal. And then when you go to small sellers, we see the opposite. Like, they fall in love for all the products. They want to advertise every product. They want to try to push every product. And then they sometimes spend a lot of money on products that not necessarily sell. And then they're left without money to advertise on the good products. They're left without money to buy more inventory on the good products that really drive the profit margin on the account. So the first thing I would say is the good old 80-20 rule, right? So you want to spend 80% of your resources on the 20% of products that drive 80% of your results, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that, to my point before, it's great when I cite my own point, but reality is not necessarily you understand how to optimize your margins, right? Because you think that you do, right? Because you look at the fixed costs. So I know that I sell this product for this amount. I know how much I pay in FBA fee. I know how much I pay in referral fee, and I know how much my cost of good is. But you don't know the other costs that usually are the ones that eat you alive, right? So refunds, returns, cost of capital if you have any credit line, and if you don't, maybe you should get a credit line to be able to leverage the product. Of course, I'm not a credit specialist, but this is something to consider to give you some additional resources, especially when it comes to like we're almost on Q4. So this is the time, right? You're not going to ramp up your products in late November. So I think that's one important thing to do. But how do you understand how to allocate capital so that you maximize and extract the max profitability in each product, not from a percentage standpoint, but from a total dollar standpoint? That is not something you're going to be able to simulate on an Excel spreadsheet, understanding how much to pay in each keyword at each hour of the day, in each day of the week. For example, Monday mornings are completely different than Sunday nights, right? Completely different. They're just 12 hours apart. Two different worlds, right? If you're selling coffee, you probably have the highest conversion rate in the morning. But if you're selling a sleep aid supplement, like a melatonin supplement, your highest conversion rate is at night. And then if you sell business to business products, you have a much higher conversion rate during the day in the days of the week. If you sell pet products, we see spikes on the weekends, for example, right? When people are looking at their dogs. So understanding how each thing plays out, understanding how much relevance you're gaining in each keyword, how much to budget for each day of the week in each ASIN, in each keyword, each hour of the day. Given all the other restrictions, cost of goods, referral fees, FBA fees, long-term storage fees, inventory availability, and everything else, this is something you cannot do. So I think that if I have to give you a super simple answer, that would be 80% of resources on 20% of products. That's how I would say that you should optimize. If you want a little bit more sophisticated answer, then I would say you have to take all these items into account to really understand how much to push each keyword, each ASIN target for each of your products in a given moment. Okay.
And then, Daniel, another question here is if you, there were several questions around just how, how Quartile can sort of basically within the margin optimization feature or within any of the features that we actually offer, like how can Quartile like actively manage these costs on a regular basis?
Yeah, so think about that in this way, right? So reality is you have to take all that into account, right? So there's some costs that are given, like cost of goods is a given. FBA fee is a given, right? So I know for how much you sell the product. I know which costs I cannot work around, like FBA fee, referral fee, cost of goods. Then you have advertising, and then you have storage fees, and you have other stuff. And then you have elasticity, right? Which is extremely complex to discuss in a 7-minute window that we have left. But there are some products that we can clearly see, given impression share that they have for the most relevant keywords, given how well or not they're ranked, given how their rankings changed as we sell more or less. There's some products that we see that if we spend more in ads, organic sales will follow quickly, and that will increase our margins disproportionately. Other products are already on their ceiling. Because remember, guys, not necessarily Amazon wants to show all the products. They prefer to show some products. I don't know any seller that just has bestsellers. Some products Amazon really wants to show, some they don't. And the reason why is because they have more than 2 billion active products. And whenever someone searches something, they will choose who to show, organically especially, right? And that's what you want. You want the organic sales. But to be able to understand how to get to the organic sales, we have to realize how closer are you on the diminishing return point, how much room you have to grow that product, given the data points we collect. We collect dozens, hundreds of data points in real time to be able to understand if your rankings are changing as we push, if your cost per click, if your number of impression shares, and all the other aspects. the ratios between how much we are bidding and how much the click is costing, right? I might have a keyword that I'm bidding at $5 and it's costing $2 only. There's no need for me to bid higher, even if I don't have such a huge impression share, because Amazon is just refusing to show me more. But then I have other keywords that I'm bidding at $1, the click is costing 95 cents, and I have a 20% impression share. Obviously, if I increase my bids, I'm going to increase the number of clicks. Yes, I will pay more per click, but I will increase disproportionately my number of clicks, and my impression share will go up. I'll start dominating organically that keyword. That will drive additional organic sales. So it makes sense to invest, to allocate capital on that keyword. This is something that just been looking at a report, and so you have like different data sources, reports on Seller Central. Then you take your costs from different sources. You cannot manage like that. This is what we do.
And then last question, Daniel, is going up, if I am launching a brand new product tomorrow or a new ASIN to my campaigns, how would you go about structuring, things like margin and in order to make sure that it is the most profitable in both the short and long term?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing when it comes to margin, right, I think that you have to understand what does planning mean and what does wishful thinking mean, right? Which is not different from ACoS target, right? So my thing for you here is start targeting the same margin you have now. So if you have an ASIN that is giving you a 7% margin, let's start targeting getting to a 7% margin. If you have another ASIN that is giving you a 28% margin, let's target getting to 28%. If you have another ASIN that is giving you a 15% margin, let's target getting to 15% margin. As we go, Quartile will start understanding which products it can extract more margin. In the same way that if you set an ACoS and Quartile sees that it can be more efficient than that, it will start decreasing slowly the ACoS to be slightly more efficient every week. Again, guys, this is a long-term game. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So start targeting the margins you have now. As we get to that, we start growing, we start going over, and we'll start getting to the margin you want to be. And there will be a point in which you're going to say, you know what? When we started targeting this product by margin, it was achieving a 6% margin. We are already at 13, which is great, more than double. But we're not going to get to 20. To be able to get to 20% margin, we're going to decrease your volume so much that you're going to be doing much less money, right? You don't want to. It's much better to do 13% margin on $10,000 a day in sales than do 20% margin in $3,000 a day in sales, right? So those are the things that Quartile dynamically will take into account to decide which margin, to suggest which margin to get to. At the end of the day, it's your call, and we have the account managers well trained to discuss that with you. But it is it's a process. It's not something that in 1 week we'll get to the margin you want. Not necessarily we will get to the margin you want, but I'm sure that we're going to allow you to see things clearly, and we're going to allow you to get a better margin. If we're going to get exactly to the margin you want or not, it's extremely hard to say, but we're going to get better and we're going to be lucid, right? And I think that's probably the most relevant thing, because right now we see people doing rudimentary calculations. They think about breaking even on the ads. They don't count different types of costs. Sometimes they slow down the pace to try to increase margins, and they pay so much in referral in long-term storage fees. Sometimes they don't leverage different programs like that brand referral bonus that Amazon does. So we'll put everything together for you to make sure that we are optimizing towards always growing, right? I think that like in general, you want to grow top line. Not necessarily it's a primary goal, but everything else staying the same. It's better to be bigger. So we want to grow top line. We want to grow margin in dollars. We want to grow margin as a percentage standpoint. We want to free up cash flow for you to be able to pay yourself or invest in growing the company or paying back any credit line you might have. But we're going to be helping you guys with that discussion. I think that don't think that it's a simple thing, because you have been trying to do this for a good amount of time, and probably things are not getting easier for you, exactly because it's a very complex problem that people try to solve in a very rudimentary way. So I think that we have built a very interesting platform, and happy to discuss more. My email is daniel@quartile.com. I know we're getting to the end of the session, but my email is daniel@quartile.com. If you guys want to schedule another conversation, shoot me an email. You can go to our website, quartile.com, request a demo. You can send an email to sales@quartile.com. Feel free to do that, guys. Let's continue the conversation because I think it's a very important topic to cover. And it's great to be an entrepreneur. It's great to have a business, but you're in this business to grow and to make money. So let's focus on that. Okay?
Thanks, Daniel, and to everybody that I think we got to most of the questions here. And if anybody has any other questions, you'll get a follow-up. You can schedule a demonstration of just to walk through the Quartile platform. We can talk through some of your individual goals for your seller account or vendor accounts. And we're happy to sort of set you up with one of our experts and get some of your more specific question to your accounts answered. So look for an email a little bit later today. And I really appreciate everybody joining and being so engaged in the conversation. And until next time, we will talk to you again. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.